There has been a strange piece of news circulating recently that I wanted to touch on today. There has been some gossip that the Beckhams, Victoria and David, are feuding with Brooklyn and Nicola Peltz. So since the wedding, there's been some dramas and some adjustment period that hasn't gone so great, and they've been feuding. That's been the gossip. But very little of it has been substantiated, and all of it just has very, very vague, distant sources that feel like it's not really true. And Nicola and Victoria have tried to shut down rumors of a feud a few times. For any family unit, when a wedding occurs and somebody, moves, in this case, overseas, sort of, far away, then there's going to be a decent amount of adjustment that needs to occur. And it's not easy. And having the rumors go and exaggerate every little thing, I think is what really is happening here. Because the people closest to the couples and the couples themselves have intentionally tried to make it clear that's not what's going on. So I really think this is one of those gossip threads that's not fully accurate. But that's just my personal opinion at this time. Regardless, the initial piece of news was Meghan and Harry invited Nicola and Brooklyn to have an intimate dinner where they basically made friends and had a victims summit, powwow together, to whine and cry about how mean and conniving the Beckhams are. Almost immediately, that story got squashed as completely false, which we're going to get to in a moment. But let's just take a quick step back and look at the caliber of people we're dealing with here. Nicola Peltz from a billionaire family and Brooklyn Beckham from some of the biggest celebrities, famous people, Victoria and David Beckham, like huge. So we're dealing with two very high status people. And then we're talking about Meghan and Harry, who have made themselves into a laughingstock, made tons of mistakes, and are just very B-team in everything. They're ex-royals, they're just kind of wayward, doing C-team type stuff. Nicola would never cozy up to Meghan Markle. Like, say what you want about her, whatever impressions you have about her, but she has a long-standing reputation for being firmly, sometimes a little snooty about who she spends time with or is seen with or around. So the Meg, she would never, like literally never. When she was making wedding invitations, somebody was like, "Oh, are you going to invite Meghan?" And she's like, "Meghan who?" And they're like, "Meghan and Harry." And she's like, "No." She invited the Prince and Princess of Wales, who couldn't attend because obviously they were dealing with other personal things at the time. So anyway, the truth of the matter is that it was not some intimate dinner organized by Meghan and Harry and blah, 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 victim summit. All that is nonsense and lies. What actually happened was it was a huge dinner with over 40 people there, over 20 couples attended. It was hosted by the Paramount executive. Brooklyn and Nicola were invited because David has a show with Paramount. And so it was just a nice gesture because they were in town or something like that. And so there was no, Meghan and Harry, Nicola and Brooklyn getting together. That was not a thing. They did speak while they were there, but they spent no significant amount of time together there at all. And this actually ended up being quite damaging PR for Harry and Meghan because you can only view this initial headline of Meghan and Harry reach out to Nicola and Brooklyn because they've both fallen out with Victoria and David. You can only view that narrative. That was very short-lived because, like I said, it got squashed quickly, as extremely manipulative and conniving on Meghan and Harry's part. It appears as though they were taking advantage of this often exaggerated and untrue headline narrative about a feud to attempt to drive a wedge between Brooklyn and his family, which is super messed up to meddle about in someone else's family, much like she did with Harry and his family. Meghan never appeared to play the role of calming Harry down, encouraging him to extend grace or make peace with his family, or just taking time to calm down and think before he acts. Meghan never played that role, which is a key role for a spouse. They should be the one there to help you calm down when you're feeling worked up, because you should be comfortable enough to express your emotions around them, and then they're supposed to help you come back to reality and reason with you and be like, I get why you feel that way, me too, F them, not cool. We can be angry, but let's think before we act. Let's not blow up this relationship and these bridges with your family. Let's extend grace. Let's think about what they're going through. Let's relax on this a little bit. Let's take a different route. No, Meghan seemed to only poke the bear, so to speak, as often as possible, wind Harry up even more, feed his paranoia, feed his discontentment, and just make everything worse. That's the role Meghan took on. So it's no stretch of the imagination to believe that this is a bit of a pattern with Meghan. But all the more suspicious is the fact that that initial story was leaks from sources close to the couple and sources close to the dinner, which then gave an account that it was this summit narrative. Because anytime it's something from the Camp Sussex, from Harry and Meghan themselves, it's sources close to the couple. It's a dead giveaway. Every time they say sources close to the couple, they're talking about Harry and Meghan specifically issuing this information out and leaking this information themselves or through one of their, staff. So that's a dead giveaway that the first story was most likely from the Sussex party themselves. Then the correction, the reality, this is actually what happened, that was likely from sources close to the Beckham-Peltz couple, because tellingly, these sources didn't out themselves the way Harry and Meghan always do. It didn't say that it was a source close to the couple. It said it was a source close to the event, the dinner, from that space. Not necessarily claiming and outing themselves as being tied back to Brooklyn or Nicola, which is smart. That's what most savvy, famous people, celebrities do. They're not going to give it away that they're the ones correcting the narrative or that they're the ones leaking this information, because it's tacky and it's not the done thing. You want to distance yourself from it, so you want to be vague about just how close you are when you're a source or when you're divulging the information. You don't want to give it away that you're close to this couple or that couple. But Harry and Meghan don't get this, and they always reveal that it's a source close to them. For all normal celebrities and famous people with self-respect, they never divulge that the source is theirs. They don't leave those sorts of clues specifically. So the correction that explained this was a big dinner with over 20 couples, meaning upwards of 40 people likely present, said that the Sussexes and the Beckham-Peltz couple hardly spoke at all. And here's the thing, no matter what you think of the Peltz-Beckham situation, the marriage, the dynamic, and the relationship with the Beckhams, David and Victoria, none of the people in that group and orbit, they're not the kind of thirsty, desperate idiots that would start canoodling with the likes of Harry and Meghan, who leak more than any celebrity we have seen in a long time. It's not just that the Sussexes are toxic, it's that they are manipulative and dishonest and lack basic privacy and manners and discretion with those around them. And as I said, Nicola has a mixed reputation online. A lot of reports and her own actions and words and interviews and whatnot show that she's very loyal to her family. She has a big family. She has like 8 brothers and sisters or something like that. She wants to have a big family. Others claim that she can be a bit snooty and diva-like, a little bit like spoiled sometimes. I know it's totally shocking coming from a billionaire family, but most people say that she is pretty family-oriented, pretty loyal, and doesn't really seek out publicity specifically. And so because of this and Brooklyn's upbringing, coming from a close-knit family as well, that also really seemed to respect privacy and not really engage with sort of leaking things. Like the Beckhams are not leaky people. I don't see Brooklyn or Nicola finding any sort of allure with the Sussexes or warming to them at all, like in general. I just don't think that vibes. But what do you think? Thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!